In 2017, Universal Studios announced the birth of a new shared universe of monster movies, bringing their classic horror icons into the contemporary franchise film landscape. But after the critical and financial failure of its first installment, the project was indefinitely abandoned. Now, in 2025, the powers that be have called upon one pulp horror devotee and one snarky film critic to unearth the concept. I'm Dylan Roth.
And I'm Dalton DeShane.
Are you afraid of the dark universe?
Death's door slams shut. 6 symbols carved into the frame glow. The ground begins to shake. Dracula, played in the film by Mads Mikkelsen and in this reading by Dylan Roth, speaks.
What the hell have you done this time, Morton?
Nick Morton, played in the film by Tom Cruise and in this reading by Dalton DeShane, looks at Dracula and touches the back of his neck. The mark of Set is gone. Adelaide must have been marked too.
What?
Nick Morton and Dracula stand facing each other in the lower level of the Babylon fortress in Coptic Cairo, Egypt. Nick is dumbstruck. We lost. Next to Death's door, Amenet and her gathering of death gods levitate into the sky. The new Queen of Death smiles at Nick as she goes. Nick runs, scrambling his way up blocks of stone.
Morton, where are you going?
Nick ignores him, climbing back up to ground level and running to the edge of the fortress. He looks out on what is now a familiar sight to us, a city in chaos. A sinkhole has opened up in downtown Cairo, demons flowing out of it into the streets. Sirens, screams, smoke. Nick is frozen in horror. Dracula's voice speaks behind him.
Hell on earth.
It's over. I failed.
I'd say so. Do you know how many soldiers I had to slay to escape hell? And as soon as I get here, you open the door so it can follow me. Congratulations, Nicholas. You convinced yourself so thoroughly that you were humanity's savior that you ended up damning everyone instead.
Nick falls to his knees, head down. Dracula rolls his eyes.
Oh, get up, you pathetic recreant. No sense in rolling over dead when death is all around you.
Do you have your powers back?
No, not yet.
Great. Then it's over. Dracula grabs Nick by the collar and pulls him to his feet.
Understand this, Morton. This isn't over until I command it. And unless you prefer to keep groveling at the altar of your own failure, you will come with me.
He brushes some dust off Nick's shirt and then backhands him across the face. He walks off.
Come! There's much work to do.
What work? You're telling me Count Dracula has some big plan to save the world?
We're not going to save the world, Mr. Morton.
Close up on Dracula, a small smile appearing on his face.
We're going to end it.
Title: Dark Legion, Hell on Earth.
Hello and welcome to Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe?
Ooh, I bet a lot of people are today.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
I'm a little scared myself, Dalton.
Yeah, we've been under a lot of pressure. We're feeling a little scared.
This is, if you're listening, you know what podcast this is.
If this is your first episode,
you should start somewhere else.
Up.
Yes, please go back at least to
Death's Door?
Death's Door, but really you should go back to either the beginning or
No. Go to the recap. Go to the recap episodes and then Death's Door and then here.
Yes.
That's 4 because Death's Door is part 2. Do the 2 recap episodes, both parts of Death's Door. Meet us here where it is a rainy day in New York City. Perfect for sitting down for probably 12 hours of podcasting in the basement studio here.
Telling a spooky story.
We got our bevies.
Yes, we do. I'm drinking water. I'm keeping sugar water out of my diet right now because I'm recovering from like a little vocal injury while being sick. So
everyone listening, like, shut the fuck up, Dylan. I don't care about the vocal injury. Tell us what happened. But no, we're gonna make you wait. And that's kind of a bad cold open because to tease people with, because the beginning of it already happened in Death's Door. The end of it was in the trailer. So it really didn't give you guys much new.
Really not much at all. But usually, in anything but a Dark Legion episode, we usually talk for a while before we get into the script at all.
Yeah, so don't complain.
We got a little taste.
I know you.
We
you
won't
all
take
love to
too
complain.
long here. So obviously, here we are at 3 years ago. We set out with the goal of outlining a dark universe that would mirror the structure of the MCU.
Yes, that goal was to outline.
Yeah, that is what we
universe.
said. I went back and listened to a little bit of the first episode recently, and we do say we were going to plan and outline it. We did not say we're going to write it, and yet here we are.
Interesting.
Because we're insane people.
With a 169-page script for you all.
Here it is.
Which is actually... So
it's only a little bit longer than The Mummy's Hand.
Yeah,
was.
I think that's actually pretty reasonable for our Endgame, you know?
Yeah.
But let's lay out, first of all, I guess, how the timing of this is going to work. We are splitting this into 3 parts. Partially because of length, but also that's just where it made sense to break up the script. Acts 1, 2, and 3...
They have really clean...
break points.
Yes.
But we're not going to make you wait 3 Sundays. At least, we hope not.
We hope not. If everything goes according to plan, it will be as follows.
If everything goes according to plan, you're listening to this today, Sunday. You just joined us yesterday for our marathon of the top 5 Dark Universe episodes.
And what a great time we'll assume we had.
Yeah, I can't believe what was number 1.
Yeah.
Make sure, I was about to say make sure you vote in those. It's over.
It's over.
Just said
you can't
we
vote
already
in
did
those.
it. You
That's
can't
done,
vote.
yeah. Thank you all so much for participating in that, by the
Yes.
way. Even if you weren't at the thing, I know a lot of you voted. We got a lot of votes.
Yeah, we got a lot of votes. So today, you're going to get part 1, which is Act 1 of the film. On Thursday, you are going to get part 2, which will be all of Act 2. And then next Sunday, you'll get part 3. And, set willing, the director's cut will be posted on the Patreon of the entire film. So you don't have to, if you want to re-listen, you don't have to listen to all 3 episodes back to back.
Yeah, you can just listen to
just
straight
the
up.
movie.
It'll be just the narrative portions of the show.
Now, to be clear, there's nothing we're cutting out and putting in the director's cut.
Yeah,
the director's cut isn't
not,
any... Yeah.
Yeah, we have not... Everybody listening on the free feed is getting the entire script, the entire story.
Yes.
It's just that if you're on the Patreon, you get the option of listening without all our yakking.
Mm-hmm. And we're doing this without ads, without ad breaks in the middle, bonus pod clips. We want you to get as much of the movie as possible.
Yes. And also, if you have been experiencing this, please let us know. A couple people have reported that the auto-inserted ads on guest episodes and stuff that we've been doing through Libsyn on RSS feeds are making episodes chopped up, and like the timestamps are being messed up, not just in terms of using the shortcuts, but the actual playhead's been moving. So if you have been listening and having a hard time listening back to some old episodes with ads, please let us know, because we want to make sure that the show is listenable for everybody.
And let us know what platform you're listening on, because it might be platform specific.
Yeah.
But not only do we have to talk about timing, we have a pretty big announcement to make here.
Yeah, we'll do this one right off the top.
So we've been pretty cagey about this over the last, I don't know, probably year or more.
Yeah, primarily because we don't want to overshadow the work we were doing in the meantime.
Yes. And so we're still going to keep some details close to the vest, but in case people hadn't guessed this is going to be the final mainline pitch for the Dark Universe at all. It's not just that the Death's Door saga is ending.
Yeah, we are putting a pin in this entire Dark Universe experiment.
Now, that doesn't mean the podcast is ending.
Far from it.
The podcast, we have plenty of plans for.
Yes, we do. We have been building ramp for the thing we're doing next, and making plans for really for the past, I guess, year and a half.
Yes. And if you like what we're like, it's not going to be super different. If you like what we're doing now, you're going to like what we're doing.
The format of the show is staying almost exactly the same.
Yeah. We're adding a couple quality of life improvements, as you might do with an update to a video game. But other than that, the format is going to stay the same. And future guest pitches may end up in the Dark Universe. Like, we're not closing the door on guest pitches or studio mandates, our bonus pitches that we do on the bonus pod. In fact, we're going to let people decide whether they want us to make something canon with the Dark Universe when we do our studio mandate pitches. But as far as us writing scripts and continuing the story of the Dark Legion, this is the final film.
This is it there. And that's a decision that was made. It's kind of scary for us, to be honest, because we know that's why a lot of you are here, right? What I would like to believe, and I want to say this in a way that doesn't sound super passive-aggressive, that if you may have started listening to this show because you're like, oh my God, these guys started doing a version of starting off the Mummy.
Yeah, remember the Mummy?
If you're still here at this point, I'd like to believe that the thing that you like about the show is us as storytellers. Because the characters in the script that we're reading for you now, frankly, bear so little resemblance to the characters that they're based on that prevent us from making any money. And I think that this has been a show about the creative process and about us learning to work together as storytellers, challenging each other as storytellers, telling stories for our audience and for ourselves. None of that's changing.
Yeah. And I think we're terrified that people, are going to jump off the show, which I think is inevitable. I think, some people might take this as, I've got other things I want to listen to and jump off. I hope that's not a majority, though.
Yeah.
I hope that's just a few people. I hope the rest of you want to stick around and see what comes next. We're also terrified it's going to be hard to get new people because we don't have that kind of ironic hook of, hey, remember this bad movie? Like, what if we did more?
Yeah, but it's going to be a new challenge. It's going to change the metagame a little bit, but because of the nature of the show, we'll talk about that, right? It's going to complicate the process in a way that I think is going to be interesting to listen to.
Yes. And, well, I was going to say more, but you know what? I want us to focus on
Let's get back to the Hell on Earth, because the other thing is...
we're going to have a lot to say about what's coming next.
Yes,
so stay tuned.
But before we get to that, we also have predictions. People predicted what the next phase was going to be. We're going to leave that stuff
Oh, yeah, we'll leave that
off. But we have a lot of predictions from fans about this episode.
Interesting.
About how this is going to go. And as always, we picked a couple favorites. And as always... it is a mishmash of things that are way, way off, weirdly dead on, and just funny. And we will not be telling you which is which. As always, we have left out a lot because we got so many, and thank you so much.
Yes, sorry
and including
about that.
some where it's like it's not in there because no, that's just too close. We can't do that. We can't say that out loud on the show.
Well, if you got something right, we'll try to shout you out at the end of part 3 if we remember. After 8 hours of frantic podcasting brain.
Or maybe some of the dead-on ones are still mixed in here, and you won't know.
You'll never know.
Yeah.
Well, you will.
You'll find out. You'll find out in like a week and a half. So
yeah.
So there's a fair amount of debate in the Discord about whether or not there would be time travel in this story. A notion that was already in people's minds because that's how Avengers Endgame functions. But that was stoked dramatically by the trailer for Hell on Earth that we posted in the feed, which features a car chase in which lead characters' cars transform into vehicles from different settings and eras.
Yes. So I know we had a couple people that thought that was an indication we were going to rope Back to the Future into it.
Yes.
Or H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, I think were a couple guesses, which is...
No, Back to the Future is universal. The Time Machine is public domain.
It's fascinating to me, though, because when we put out the trailer, it did not even occur to me that people might read that as time travel. But that seems to be the consensus. And I was like, I guess I was looking at it from the wrong angle.
That led to some conversation about that. On the Discord, the real Nick Morton thinks that they'll have to prevent Nick from awakening Aminet in the first place, thus erasing the inciting incident from the Mummy 2017.
Ah, okay. So similar to Endgame. People think we're going to, pretty much straight up do Endgame.
I mean, to a certain extent, I think that's a reasonable expectation.
Sure. We're modeled after the MCU.
We've talked about how we're using the Mummy as our Iron Man. We certainly did our take on Infinity War structurally with Death's Door. So,
I am the Mummy Nick Morton. Or Tom Cruise the Mummy.
I am Tom Cruise the Mummy 2017. Lots of people expect a massive cast return like the portal scenes in Avengers Endgame.
Wait, but they're dead.
Was that?
Everyone's dead.
Yeah, I guess they were dead in Endgame.
They were disappeared.
Personally, I think they were dead, but that's... But Superhero Bricks on Instagram would be pleasantly surprised if not everyone makes it back. A couple other influences aside from Avengers Endgame were posited. On Instagram, Carrion Comfort says that all ends with our Dark Legion in a church, having all been drawn there, their lives, their cares, their words, all led them there. That there was more to life in the island. It was just what brought them together. What's important is what happened after the island.
Now, which one of us might have tried to write that into the story between
anybody
the two
who's
of us?
missing it? That is basically paraphrasing the monologue from the end of Lost.
Kat, I know, Kat, you're still watching Lost. Don't skip that part.
I didn't say too much. I didn't say too much.
Yeah, it's not too much.
And then on the other side of that coin, JD on the Discord predicts that the entire finale will just be a retelling of The Matrix Reloaded. Which I think is a great idea, actually. So I've loaded a copy of that screenplay on my tablet onto your iPad.
Let's
and we're
read
just
that
going to do
instead.
that now.
Yeah, we'll read that instead. That's fine.
Instagram's eKing2005
I
wants
get to be
see...
the architect. I get to be the architect.
Damn it!
Nailed it.
All right, well, as long as I get to be the Merovingian.
You can be Neil.
I'll be Neil. eKing2005 on Instagram wants to see some of the Legion resurrected and teaming up with Mystery Men, who will become like the DU's Thunderbolts. Funny enough that I wrote Mystery Men before Thunderbolts come out, but I was kind of doing more of a Suicide Squad thing, right? So,
and yeah, they're similar. Sorry, not Mystery Men. The New Dark Legion is what we've retitled
not calling it that. Instagram's Instant Insanity Productions thinks that Jack and Countess Maria will be resurrected and reunited and they'll live happily ever after, and then added hashtag Justice for Jack and a hashtag Still Not Over It.
Have you ever listened to this show before?
Do we like making nice things happen? Do we like giving people what they want? A bunch of people online have been talking about this, but there are two in particular on Blue Sky. Generic Spider and Neon Typist think the dead Legionnaires are going to start some sort of uprising in hell. Sounds like fun. A couple people specifically mentioned they wanted to see the Brixton Bloodhounds come back, to which I say, you should have said something earlier. Because at multiple junctures since
we keep
phase
trying
2,
to bring them back.
We keep considering bringing the Bloodhounds back, and it never becomes a priority because I frankly thought nobody cared about them but me.
Well,
so it's your fault.
The Bloodhounds got shooters out there.
Yeah. Similarly, Dick Genital on Instagram, hi Dick Genital, one of our favorite commenters, just from your name, hopes that Elsa Falk has a bigger role in this story. But getting the sort of promotion that Nebula got in Avengers Endgame. Here's what I like a lot. Absence Skunk 7 says that Jack will escape from hell, but he'll have been flayed, so he's visible because only his skin was doing the invisible thing. So he's just played by John C. Reilly in full body makeup of not having skin.
And he's hunting through hell for his skin, which he can't find because it's invisible.
How are you going to find it?
He's just like reaching out everywhere. Yeah.
Instagram's Mr. Honthi thinks that Nick Morton will sacrifice himself to become a god. This is actually a really popular prediction that that Nick or other Legion members, maybe all of them, Carol specifically gets called out for this a lot, will become a god by the end of the movie. There's really a lot of consensus that Nick is going to die. It's just a question of whether like Dracula's going to kill him. Everyone thinks Dracula's going to betray Nick, which seems like the kind of thing Dracula might do.
I guess, that is one of his stated goals.
Yeah, I suppose it shouldn't be surprising. He said, we know he wants to kill Nick.
Yeah, that's really the last thing he wants to do right
The question is whether Nick will be prepared for it and somehow have worked it into his own plan. I am Josh Prime on Instagram thinks that Dracula will kill Nick in the intro, and it becomes a Dracula solo film from here on out.
Well, we've
already
intro.
passed that,
yeah,
so no, not in the intro.
Alive.
Since we introduced a character and one new character we haven't named in the trailer who was played by Joseph Quinn, a lot of people were guessing, who's Joseph Quinn playing?
Which, of course, we wanted you to do.
Sure, otherwise we would have said who it was. Instagram's Camp Dracula says it's either Damien, the Omen kid, grown up, or an alien like Indrid Cold. The Discord, Joseph Angel thinks he's Marty McFly or some descendant of Marty or Doc Brown. We already talked about the Back to the Future predictions that were going around there. Joan Palmer says he's the Snake Man from but I think we cast the Snake Man from
I think we did. That does sound like something we would do, though.
Yes. Andy on the Discord says that Joseph Quinn is playing Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, and the twist of our next season is that we're just doing Marvel now.
Yeah, we're just reading the scripts of Marvel movies and then punching them up in the talk breaks.
Easier show, I think.
Oh, man. Can we actually please do that? Can we abandon our season 5 plans?
Let's just make an additional show on top of that. We'll do it on top of the work we're doing.
The most Dylan thing ever said.
More work, more shows. Instagram, Thieg Nolan says that everyone will sit down for tea over their feelings and come to a resolution that's mutually beneficial for all. And buddy, if it were up to me, that would be the movie. But Dalton won't allow it.
Yeah, I need things like stakes
and
action and ticking clocks, things of that nature.
On Blue Sky, Jody says that in an attempt to outdo his own stunts, Tom Cruise will descend into hell without a stunt double. We'll see.
That's gonna be his final trick in the real world, no matter what.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, Tom.
You're Mr. Movies.
We're not going to talk about it right now because we'll go all day. But see you in hell. Buttadeus on Blue Sky finally says there will be at least one song in the film.
Interesting.
We'll see what happens.
I do love that with all the predictions about who Joseph Quinn's character is, I didn't see one person guess correctly. Did you?
We'll get to it.
Okay. I didn't see any, but perhaps someone did. But
hey,
I guess
let's do Act 1.
I guess at this point,
y'all have waited long enough. We're not really planning on stopping in the middle of Act 1. We're going to roll right through it.
We had one stopping point.
We had one stopping point?
We have one stopping point, yeah.
So we'll see you at the stopping point. We're so excited. Once again, we have a cast. You haven't heard them yet because we are voicing Nick and Dracula. But we have full cast once again. We got almost everybody back who we've had before and a bunch of new faces. So new voices, I should say. So here we go.
New faces that you can't see.
Let's go into Act 1.
Oh, actually, you know what?
What's up?
We should talk about is maybe
I'm
the
sorry.
splitting up of how
yes,
we wrote this.
When one other thing I forgot to mention too, but yeah, the splitting up how we wrote this. Dalton and I each had different angles on the movie we were really interested in pursuing.
Yeah,
And
you're
so,
going to hear in the planning episode, we actually came together with a lot of ideas that really didn't overlap at all.
No, they didn't contradict, they didn't overlap, and they all ended up in the movie.
Yes, and so the way things ended up splitting up is basically I wrote all of Act 1. Primarily, of course, we each rewrote each
We
other's
rewrote
work
each other a
and
lot. There was a lot of
yeah.
collaboration in all throughout the thing. But
Yeah.
you were in charge of Act 1.
Yeah.
And I was in charge of Act 2.
Yes.
And then in Act 3, the threads that we put together from that come together, and we traded off there. And we did a lot of rewriting. This was, I think, the most back and forth we've ever had.
Yeah. And so for this episode, you're mostly going to be hearing me doing all of the action and stuff. But then in the next episode, it'll be mostly Dylan, and then we'll trade off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just wanted to point that out because this was maybe the cleanest divide of like, oh yeah, Act 1, Act 2. You know, like usually we're both writing on top of each other the whole time from beginning to end.
And there's one other thing I want to mention is that we always pick a director to do these. And this time while we were writing, I wasn't thinking about anybody's take on this but ours.
Yeah.
And the thought, it's meaningless because it's not a real movie, right? But it became kind of important to me as like a milestone, and I think to mark all the work that we've done. On the credits for this one, it would say written and directed by Dalton DeShane and Dylan Roth. This one's ours.
2 white masks directing another movie. I thought this franchise was committed to diversity. Sure, you have a trans person, but like a very cis-passing, masculine trans person
we're selling
doesn't
out.
even count.
That's right now. Phase 5 is that we're going to sell out all of our principles. And no, I mean, I just think
I think
we've been writing and producing these within the meta of the series now for 3 years. We've got 28 films under our belt.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've earned this. I think this one's ours.
Yeah, this is our baby.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Sorry, James Wan.
Act 1.
13 months later, Ashland, Pennsylvania. Drone shot over the smallest of small towns, a strip of suburban development just a half-mile long. As the drone gets closer, we see the bodies of its 2,500 residents scattered about, half-eaten, torn to viscera, the demons responsible long gone. Some remaining souls have become zombies, feeding on the remains of their neighbors. The camera stops in front of 2 houses. In the front yard of one, the bodies of the residents have been piled neatly under the shade of the elm tree in the front yard. The other house has not performed the same courtesy. The dead have been left where they fell. There's smoke rising from the chimney. Push in through the window of this house. Inside, the fireplace flickers in an otherwise dark living room. A man sits in a tall chair whose leather has been nibbled on by rats. He stares at the fire, his fingers steepled in front of him. It's Dracula. He speaks, though we don't see to whom.
I didn't think the company here could get any lower.
That is no way for a mortal to speak to vampire.
What about a son to his father?
Behind Dracula, a new figure steps into view. Tall, slender, and far older than even his gaunt face and thinning white hair would suggest. This is the Master, portrayed in the film by Charles Dance, and in this reading by Abe Goldfarb.
I am your father no longer, Vladimir Draculia.
Then why are you here? It can't have been easy to find me.
It is easy for me to find anyone. I had hoped to dissuade you from what you're planning, but as I look at you now, I see little hope of that.
Dracula rises from his chair and steps slowly towards the Master, cold fury in his eyes.
How dare you show up unannounced? You left me with nothing. When Nick Morton stripped me of my power, my birthright, I begged you to restore it. Instead, you showed me the door.
And then, rather than accept your punishment in hell, you struck a deal with the demon Pazuzu. 3 souls in exchange for the return of your strength and immortality.
A bargain, since it meant defying your righteous judgment.
And yet, part of your debt remains unpaid. Tell me, why does Nick Morton still live?
Cut to inside the other house, where Nick Morton bobs down the stairs, pulling a black t-shirt on. Morning, Jack. He smiles at a chair in the living room. The interior layout is identical to Dracula's house next door. Today's the day. If this plan works, then we may be close to actually ending all this. He sits down on the couch next to the chair and spreads out an array of guns on the coffee table, loading each one carefully with silver-flecked bullets. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared. Okay, yeah, I guess that sounds a little silly. We've spent a year narrowly avoiding getting torn apart by Hellspawn. When would I not be scared? But this is different. We don't stand a chance against the person we're looking for. If he decides he wants us dead, we'll be dead before we even know what happened. Nick lets the guns hang loose in his hands, aware of how useless they'll be. He looks up at the chair next to him. But I have to try. For you, buddy. You, Maria, Gwen, Larry, Jekyll, Jenny and Carol, Victor, Hunter, Vale. He stands up, weighing the guns in his hands. But hey, I guess I can travel a little lighter today. He tosses one of the guns onto the chair, where it lands on the cushion. Nothing and nobody there to catch it. Cut back to Dracula and the Master.
Nick Morton is desperate to make amends for his role in bringing about the apocalypse. His guilt makes him pliable. I assure you that the moment he is no longer useful, then my debt to Pazuzu shall be paid in full.
You won't get the chance. Queen Armanet is on to you, she and her court, the surviving gods of death.
It's been more than a year. They haven't found us yet.
They haven't been looking. You may see yourself as this planet's ruler in waiting, but to them you're a pair of mortals. No greater threat than the millions of others they've killed.
So what changed?
Someone has brought your plan to their attention. I suspect it was Pazuzu himself, grown impatient with your delayed payment and seeking interest in the form of drama.
You've yet to clarify your own interest in me, father.
The Master sneers at the word.
I have no interest in you. Everything you were was given to you by me, and now that I've taken it away, you are nobody again. I am merely here to issue a warning. If you cheat your way back into your power without my permission, you will answer to me.
The Master strides briskly to the front door and turns the knob. We cut to the other side as it swings open. The Master is gone. Instead, we see that Nick Morton has his hand on the opposite doorknob, opening the door from the outside. He has guns strapped to shoulder holsters across his chest and ammo magazines on his belt. You ready to go? Dracula is startled, but tries to hide it.
Me? I've been waiting for you.
Sure, Drac. I'll bet you've been right there all day, looming. Cut to Nick and Drac driving a beat-up sedan through the Pennsylvania countryside, weaving around abandoned cars. Inside, Nick drives, playing chauffeur to Dracula, who sits in the back.
How many mercury bullets do you have left?
Enough.
Every day this answer. Enough, enough. One of these days it will necessarily not be enough.
Well, then what's the point of asking? Either we have enough, or we don't. Dracula runs a hand along the broadsword in his lap, edges tipped in iridescent silver.
On that day, only the wise one with the sword shall live on.
You do your Vlad the Impaler thing. I'll stick to the only thing I've ever really been good at. We cut away from this bickering to a hilltop far away, looking down at the sedan. Nick finishes his thought in voiceover. Being a soldier. A large wolf crests the hill just in front of the camera. It stands, panting, watching the sedan far below, before taking off down the hillside in pursuit. Nick and Dracula park at the edge of a town that isn't a town. It's abandoned, but unlike Ashland, there are no bodies. No, this place was left behind far before the end of the world. Most buildings have been razed to the ground, leaving just a few blocks of road grid and plenty of overgrowth. Dracula steps out of the car and looks around with distaste.
You're certain this is the place? I see no facilities.
It's not about the town up here. It's about the hell underneath. They walk into town, passing a weathered sign that reads Centralia, Pennsylvania. They walk down the broken and uneven main road. Hot steam floats out of the cracks around them.
When you said hell was beneath us...
Not literally. The coal mine under our feet caught fire in 1962 and has been raging ever since. The experts say it'll take 250 years to burn itself out.
The perfect place to hide a prodigium facility.
If our intel is correct. But apparently the surface entrance was crushed during another thermal rupture. We're going to have to access it from underneath. Nick and Drac push their way through the underbrush to the famous Graffiti Highway, a section of Route 61 that fractured wide open from a steam fissure and now is painted over almost entirely in graffiti from urban explorers. This is a real place. That's
Oh, no, I know. Listen, I introduced Centralia to our universe in Kill Your Darlings.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I went to college near there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this really makes Kill Your Darlings canon.
It is. I mean, I
brings it
thought
in.
that was on purpose.
Yes. Yes, it was. They affix a rope to a thick tree at the edge of the highway and drop it down into the fissure, staring into its dark depths. Dracula makes a move for the rope, and Nick puts his hand out. Wait, just hold on.
Frightened, Morton.
I don't do well with underground spaces.
And I'm not too eager to return to the flames of hell, but I am Vlad the Impaler, and you are a soldier.
Dracula fixes the rope to his rappelling gear and drops into the fissure. Nick closes his eyes, sighs, and follows. The two descend into the flaming cavern. Fire roars from the coal-lined walls all around them. Nick is soaked in sweat within seconds, his breath taken away by the heat. Can we, go a little faster there, Vlad? It's kind of hot in here.
You do not know true heat, Mr. Morton. You will. Before this is over, you will.
Nick grimaces. Then something in the distance catches his eye, barely visible between the flames, image rippling from the heat. A metal elevator shaft built to cut through the mine. There it is! They touch down on a bare patch of rock. Nick staggers, lightheaded.
Come on. Can't be more than a few hundred meters.
I can't go any deeper. The carbon monoxide. Head is pounding. Dracula grabs Nick by the collar and slaps him across the face.
And how does it feel now,
Nick starts to fall to his knees, but Dracula grabs him.
If you fall, you'll burn. Already the soles of your boots are melting. We move now or we die.
Nick nods, picks himself up, and they run. Well, as best they can. For all of Dracula's tough talk, he's clearly feeling the heat as well. He sweats, he staggers, gritting his teeth to try to power through without showing weakness. Their lips chap, their skin burns. Then they're at the solid black elevator shaft. Nick pounds the button, calling the elevator. They sway on their feet as they wait for it to arrive. Sure enough, Nick's boots are melting and sticking to the rock. Finally, it arrives, and they both lunge in at the same time, instantly blasted by the cold air circulating through the car. They collapse into the corners. The elevator descends into the rock, away from the fire. Outside the shaft, in the flames where they just stood, a wolf trots into view, seemingly unbothered by the heat. In the elevator car, Nick pulls his water bottle out of his bag. When he opens it, only steam comes out. The car comes to a halt and the door dings open, immediately revealing the decaying body of a Prodigium agent who appears to have torn his own stomach open, fingers still lodged in the edges of the worm-infested open wound. Nick climbs weakly to his feet. Off to a good start. They walk down a metal corridor, fluorescent lights flickering. Bodies lay scattered every few feet, all of them dead of apparently self-inflicted wounds. Eyes plucked out, throats stabbed through, a few gunshots to the head, service weapons still in their rotting grips. Drac and Nick barely notice. They're well past desensitized at this point. They just make their way to the door at the far end of the hall. It's locked, naturally, but Nick and Drac aren't worried. Nick reaches into his bag and pulls out Dr. Jennifer Halsey's universal lockpick, and after a quick whir and a beep, the door opens. Whatever they were expecting behind this door, it wasn't this. They step into what appears to be a small countryside town, reconstructed inside a room larger than an airplane hangar. The walls and ceiling have been painted like a cool spring blue sky, lit by an artificial sun similar to the one we saw in House of Dracula. They step onto the dirt road that winds through a green field of grass, past the sign that reads, "Now entering the village of Midwich." Nick and Dracula enter the uncanny village. At first glance, it could be mistaken for a legitimate town in the English countryside, but the details give it away as the prefab mimic that it is. All the buildings are the same age, built from the same materials, with the same amount of wear. The longer you look at it, the more it feels like a theme park land than a village. Until they reach the graveyard. That feels real. They stop and look. 4 buildings were torn down to make room for it, and the crumbled outlines of their foundations are still visible. There's no real ground to dig into here, so the coffins sit on the surface in neat rows, simple boxes made from mismatched materials taken from the torn-down buildings. There must be 200 of them, as many people as could have populated a village like this.
You're certain we need this person?
He buried his victims.
What? No one is buried here.
You know what I mean. It shows regret. Humanity.
You don't know that he's the one that did this.
No one does anything here without his permission. He looks at Dracula with resolve. We can do this. They keep walking. They turn onto the main thoroughfare, and that's when we see it. The enormous black spire in the center of the village, so tall that it scrapes the faux sky ceiling of the enclosure. But it doesn't belong here. It's two-dimensional, a rough collage of a monolith made from construction paper and cardboard, completely out of place with the reality of the world in the frame. Nick and Drac walk toward it with their gaze averted elsewhere. Hey, am I crazy or...
No, I can't look at it either. I'm not familiar with this magic.
How are we supposed to go inside a building we can't even look at?
You've never owned a castle, Morton. You don't go see the lord of such a tower. They come to see you.
Then they hear the howl of a wolf pierce the silence of the village, its echo hanging eerily in the air of the enormous chamber. Nick and Drac both whip around. The hell was that?
I believe we've been followed.
Who on earth could have followed us down here?
Someone not of this earth.
Rain begins to splash at their feet. They look up. Impossible clouds have formed inside this chamber deep underground. Nick puts out his hand to catch the drops. Red. Blood. A figure approaches them, striding confidently down the middle of the street. He stands 8 feet tall, a skeleton painted red with the falling blood, wearing a feathered headdress and a necklace of human eyeballs.
It is Mictlantecutli, the Aztec god of death.
Nick pulls his guns. Well, here we go. Mictlantecutli shouts to them with the voice of Edward James Olmos, played in this reading by Dylan Roth.
Brave gentlemen, I must applaud you for making it this far.
Dracula steps forward toward the god. Nick looks at him like he's crazy. Whoa. This is the guy that killed Gwen. Our alpha wolf? We're two mortals. Do you have a plan here, Drac?
Of course.
Dracula draws his sword.
We die in battle.
The Queen sends her regards. You should take that as a great honor. She has no need to acknowledge any mortals, and yet she sent the great Mictlantecutli to end your lives personally.
Silence, devil! I have no need for your words. Fight me or die!
Dracula charges forward, drenched in blood. In his element, in other words. Drac, wait! Mictlantecutli laughs. Dracula slashes at him, aiming for his exposed spine under his ribcage. The god catches the blade easily in one bony fist and squeezes. The quicksilver blade shatters. Dracula drops the ruined sword and falls back, his face betraying his fear for the first time. How does it feel to be the wise one with the sword? Mictlantecutli charges forward, sweeping Dracula aside with one hand, sending him flying into a building. Nick dual wields his pistols, blasting the god with silver bullets, all of them landing cleanly in his bony forehead. But they have no effect. Nick keeps firing, strafing over to Dracula until both guns are out of bullets. They click in his hands for a second before he realizes what's happened, then drops them to the ground. He looks at Drac with wide eyes. Not enough. Dracula gets to his feet as the Aztec reaches them, towering over them. Impossible lightning flashes behind him.
I must admit, I volunteered to be the one to kill you.
You're not the first to travel the world for the glory of slaying Count Dracula.
You flatter yourself, human. There is no glory for me here.
He leans down to look at them on their level.
I just missed the taste of mortal hearts.
He stands back up to his full height, ready to strike. Nick closes his eyes. Dracula stares defiantly. And then, a new voice.
Stop.
Mictlantecutli freezes in place.
What? What magic is this?
A man approaches. His face is wrong somehow. It doesn't quite fit his head or track cleanly with his movements. It's too smooth, artificial, uncanny. This is David, played in the film by Joseph Quinn, and in this reading by Patrick Willems. He looks at the death god, expressionless, and says simply,
Die.
As soon as he does, Mictlantecuhtli's skull implodes into fine white dust. A moment later, his painted bones collapse to the ground, melting into the thin layer of dirt, only his headdress and eyeballs left behind. The rain stops. Nick and Dracula look at David with mouths hanging open. You're him. The missing Midwich boy.
David.
He looks annoyed.
You came here from the surface?
Yes. We came for you. We need your help. David looks down sadly at the remains of the god.
I haven't killed in more than a decade.
He looks at Nick and Drac.
Come with me. I want you to explain to my wife why you've made me break my vow.
He turns and walks toward the city center. Nick and Drac follow.
Then I'll decide if I need to do it again.
To Drac and Nick's surprise, David doesn't lead them to the spire. Instead, they walk away from the main street and into a small cottage. The interior is humble, average, small and tidy. Nick notices a framed photo of a young child with David's same strange face, standing with an older woman in a prodigium uniform. It looks like they're in this very house. David is laughing, both of them full of joy. David calls out,
You can come out, Emily. It's all okay.
The rug in front of Dracula suddenly moves to the side, and a trap door underneath opens. Up comes Emily, played in the film by Amy Lee Wood, and in this reading by Anique Evans. She rushes to David and embraces him tightly, kissing him, trembling just slightly. Drac and Nick exchange a glance.
Thank God. What happened? Who are they?
David looks at them expectantly. Oh, I'm Nick Morton, ma'am. And this is,
Count Dracula.
Sit down.
Nick and Drac immediately sit down on the floor. David catches himself, embarrassed.
I'm sorry. I try not to do commands anymore. You can sit anywhere you'd like, if you want.
They get up and cautiously move to the couch.
I'll make coffee.
David sits down across from them.
How did you find us?
It was difficult. We didn't even know you existed until about 6 months ago. And even then, you were just a whisper in a top-secret Prodigium file. All it said was that you were the one thing in Prodigium's care that Indrid Cold was afraid of. And we figured if you freaked out that psycho...
Then you would be a useful tool to us.
Nick shoots Drac a warning look. That we had to learn more about you. David nods.
I never even met Indrid Cold, if you can believe it. He was too afraid to come down here.
Why?
Our people are longtime enemies. If the files I read are to be believed, then it seems like my people wiped out his. Indrid is one of the last of his kind, maybe the last.
Who are your people?
The people of Lanulos.
I've never heard of such a place. Where is this Lanulos?
David's eyes drift up to the sky. Nick catches his drift. Well, that raises more questions than it answers.
Lanulos and Prodigus, the galaxy's most ancient rivalry. If Indrid's files are to be believed, we were sent here to finish him off.
David smiles humorlessly.
But the mission got lost somewhere in transit.
Emily sets down coffee in front of them. Nick thanks her and drinks it hastily. Drac just looks down his nose at it. Emily sits next to David and they hold hands. You said we were sent here. Are there more like you?
You'd know better than I. We landed in a small town called Midwich in England. Well, the idea of us landed. We hadn't been born yet. My siblings were born to women in the town. I was born to an agent of Prodigium. In the span of 9 months, Indrid had this town built, designed to make me think the mission was successful, that I was the only survivor. He hoped that, separated from my kin, he could raise me to be different, to spare him and the people of your planet.
Why here, under this underground inferno?
David looks at him plainly.
Because no matter how powerful I get, I can't simply tell a fire to stop raging.
Even god killers are not all powerful.
Is that who that was? God?
One of them. David sits back in his seat.
I think it's your turn. Why don't you tell me what brought you through the inferno?
Nick thinks about how to explain all this. A year ago, the world ended. We learned that this planet wasn't truly ours. It was constructed by a group of sadist death gods for the express purpose of torturing us upon our deaths. I don't really know how your planet fits into that, but that's a problem for later. A year ago, they opened a door that can't be closed. And ever since, the world has been swarmed by demons and monsters and zombies. Most people at this point have died. Everyone I ever loved. And it may not have reached you here yet, but it will. When they're done, this all goes away. You and Emily, your siblings, if they're still out there. Me and Dracula, we're the only ones left that can stop them. But we're just men. We don't stand a chance by ourselves. We need your help. Silence as David and Emily look at each other, having a conversation with their eyes. Finally, David sighs and looks at the duo.
The thing about Indrid's plan is that it didn't work, not at first. There's no life you can give a child that will stop him from throwing tantrums, that will stop a teenager from rebelling, from hating his parents. In those moments, kids lash out, but when I lash out, people get hurt. The people that Indrid sent down here with me, they were sent to die. He destroyed the elevator so they couldn't get out. Just like the mine fire above us, he hoped that with enough time, his problem would burn itself out. And it did, with Emily's help. We've known each other since we were kids, neighbors, friends, classmates. She's the one person I never lashed out at, never got angry with. See, there is a hole in me. One that I think was supposed to be filled by my siblings. We are supposed to be connected, one mind, one soul. And without that, well, I think it's part of why I was so angry. But Emily here, she fills that hole in me. She makes me feel complete. We are one mind, one soul, and with her help, I was able to change. It took time. It's hard to break a habit that's as easy as a slip of the tongue. There were more accidents, and I feel the pain, the regret, the shame every day of my life. But I also feel love, and that love keeps me on track.
Emily sheds a tear. Dracula breaks the quiet with a snort.
Are you so foolish? You think you love this man honestly?
What?
Drac?
He can make anyone do his bidding with a word. Who's to say he never told you to love him, to trust him, to fuck him? There is no free will in this prison. To presume you're the exception is foolishness.
Drac! David fumes.
David's never told me to do a thing in my life. Not as children, not now. He doesn't need to. And you know how I know?
Drac raises an eyebrow.
Because if he wasn't fully committed to our life together, you would be dead already. He would tell you to rip off your own cock and shove it in your friend here's throat. And you would do it happily.
Drac and Nick look uncomfortable. It's a grisly imagination you got there.
I've seen worse. And it stopped because we chose to stop it. David and I. Together.
Dracula scoffs.
And don't think I haven't read about you in Prodigium's files, Dracula. You don't speak out of concern for me. You speak out of jealousy. Because you used to have David's power, but you lost it. And that's why you're here on your hands and knees begging for my husband's help.
Dracula snarls his lip, but doesn't say anything. Let's all take a step back. We're all on the same side here. The side of the living.
I won't kill for you, Mr. Morton. If you are here to recruit me as your god-killing secret weapon, I'll have no part in it.
Understood. Drac looks at Nick incredulously. But there's something else I think you can help us with.
And what would that be?
I need you to help us break into heaven. Maybe we take a break there and
let's take
talk a little
there.
bit about David.
Let's talk about David. So for anybody who's wondering what we're alluding to here, you might want to recall the guest episode, Village of the Damned, with guest Avery Edison.
Yes.
Where she came up with a really, really cool twist on Village of the Damned.
Yeah.
The film, we watched the version that was the John Carpenter version.
John Carpenter.
But there's also a previous famous film adaptation.
Yeah, that was it's a fan favorite guest episode. I'm sorry, some people I know skip the guest episodes.
And we keep telling you not to do that.
But also, I tried to recap everything you would need to know.
Yeah, I
there,
think
right?
I think that it should be enough. Like I appreciate that you have Nick recaps things for anybody who has maybe not it's been a while since they listened to Death's Door, and David creates the information that we need from the the guest episode. I think you get everything you need in the context here.
Yeah.
In terms of the nuts and bolts.
And Village of the Damned, it's a fan favorite. It's one of our favorites because Avery actually like basically wrote a script, not as long as the ones we usually do, but had a really detailed with dialogue outline of this. But it notably ended with the post credits that teased something, that there was a secret final Midwich child that was born to a Prodigium agent that the others never met.
Yeah, we never followed up on it. I had initially included Sophie, the main character from Village of the Damned, in Mystery Men, and then cut her out. We did do that reading of the Sophie cut of Mystery Men recently on the Discord, and Avery was kind enough to do the voice of Sophie herself.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was interesting that, like, the main takeaway from that is, like, she found that's, like, it doesn't really feel like it's the same character, because I have Sophie doing some stuff that's kind of sinister, and it doesn't really feel like it was a lock. And it only occurred to me during that reading that it probably would have been a better fit if I had made that character the missing Midwich twin.
Well, I'm glad you didn't, because it ended up being a big part of my Act 1.
They're not canonically compatible anyway, because in my Mystery Men, Sophie's powers don't work on demons and gods. And we just demonstrated here that David's do.
So those are different canons.
These are different.
Yeah.
The version of Mystery Men that's available to everyone is still the canon version of that story.
But you read an earlier draft, basically.
Yeah.
And I had wanted, like, I think since Village of the Damned, I thought it was really fun to have a character like that out. Basically, kind of like the Purple Man from Marvel, someone who could control people with their voice.
Well, because it's terrifying in the John Carpenter movie. It's really scary, and Avery does a really great job of playing with just the absolute hell it would be to be living at the whims of these children who will make you hurt yourself just for kicks. To exercise their power.
And at the same time, it felt like that was an idea that was very thoroughly explored in that. And so I thought it would be interesting to take a different tact here with one who had basically sworn it off, that had a different life and came out very differently. I mean, Sophie sort of ends up swearing it off too, but for different reasons.
I do have to ask, it hadn't occurred to me before, you kind of must have taken that vow kind of late in the game, considering everyone else in the town is dead.
Yeah, I mean, it is the thing of, like, he says, like, even after he took the vow, there were more accidents. And I have to imagine at that point, like, I think the Prodigium people being dead implies he tried to escape at some point, like before. Yeah. And so, I think it does seem that everyone else, it is just him and Emily down there.
It's pretty grim.
Yeah, it's pretty grim because it's a really grim power. And I wanted to keep the grimness of Village of the Damned and the severity of the power, but also give him sort of a different path with it. And one of the things I wanted to do here is make sure we had no loose ends.
Yeah.
Because as we said, we are ending the Dark Universe.
Yeah,
here.
we want to make sure we put all of our toys away back in their spot.
Yes,
or use them all.
Or use them. We didn't want to be like the Marvel Universe where if something if fucking Star Fox at the end of Eternals doesn't get addressed, you can be like, well, we could always still do it
that's
at
the
some
thing,
point.
Is that they were really good at tying up all those loose ends in the Infinity Saga, and then they no longer really seem to have a direction after that.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why we're changing directions completely here, because we've hubris, we got it, right? That's why we're here. But, like, I think that the reason why the Marvel movies and Marvel Universe stopped being good isn't merely that on an individual movie by movie level and TV show by TV show level they were not as good. It's because you're done.
Yeah.
You finished. You had a great ending, and now it's just DLC. We don't want to give you DLC for the rest of our careers here.
Our initial plan was that, like, or at least my initial plan was once we finished the Death's Door saga, we would start getting goofy with it and do shit like Chucky versus Megan and Fast and Furious and shit.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would be...
That's not really going to be the same show anymore, right?
Yeah, and it's not
want
as
to get
exciting
attached to
us.
Characters. That's stuff that we do on the bonus pod.
Yeah,
we do with the
that's
guest
a good
pitches.
outlet for that now.
Yeah, we do those.
We have other outlets
and,
for that.
There was...
David and Davidson and
exactly.
Shit like that,
and so the thing is that we've gotten really good at this, I think. And so for me, the feeling is like, let's not like tie our hands with the notion of having to somehow make something that follows up on this. Let's just do a really good ending.
Yeah, and It could be argued that the post credits of Village of the Damned was not a thread that needed to be tied up because it's a guest pitch, and those are like sort of semi-canonical. But
if this is our last chance to do it, then we should do it.
It's our last chance
if
to do it.
You had a fun idea, you wanted to exercise, you wanted to introduce a new character in this one.
Yeah, I think it's fun in these final things. Like, you don't want to just see the same characters. I think it is interesting to introduce someone new in the 11th hour, and having someone that's very powerful to combine with Nick and Drac, who are mortal and don't have any powers, but also someone who doesn't want to use those powers. I thought that created an interesting dynamic. And also, we have sort of toyed with the idea of aliens from the beginning because of Injured Cold. A lot of people have predicted that after this, we were going to keep the Dark Universe going, but expand into space.
And that actually, I made a list of Universal sci-fi movies that I thought might be fun to explore.
There's a lot of great ones.
We had done our Dark Universe version of E.T.
Sure,
But also The Thing is Universal.
Yeah. This Island Earth.
Yeah. There were options. It's just, we've come up with something different.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that more later.
But we've implied that Indrid is from another planet. And Village of the Damned are canonically from another planet. So we have these kind of two space things. I didn't want to go overboard in explaining mythology because I don't think it's within the purview of our Dark Universe.
Not really.
It seems like it's out of our jurisdiction in a way.
Yeah, in a way.
Even though we're dealing with the universe. And so, yes, there are going to be some questions left unanswered about the larger universal implications. But I did want to take some time to just I thought it was interesting to sort of really canonize this for the first time in a way that didn't over-explain things, but let you know that there is a bigger world out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's kind of fun anytime you introduce something like that. I've been, there's a notion that's come in my head recently that I like, which is the authorial 10th Amendment, which is that any details not specified in the text are the purview of fan fiction writers.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want with that now.
Yeah, I think we have a lot in our Discord of people that are dealing with the cosmic stuff in the Dark Universe.
One of the most prolific extended Dark Universe writers who writes scripts that branch off from our stories in our Discord has already done a lot of stuff with aliens.
Yeah, shout out Jupiter in the Discord.
Yeah, so we'd be stepping on Jupiter's toes. That's no
exactly.
fun.
That's
all yours now. Go wild.
Yeah. So we brought David in, and I thought it would be fun to throw someone new in as we do all this stuff, and hopefully you guys agree and aren't mad that it's someone from a guest pitch that you didn't listen to.
I mean, if nothing else, it's an excuse to go listen to a really great guest episode.
Yes, absolutely. Should we continue?
I want to ask, what's
Oh yeah, do you have some questions about? Because I know I kind of plot wise just sort of did my own thing here.
This was something that I barely touched this. A thing that happens when we're writing together is I think you tighten me up and I punch you up usually. And sometimes it has to do with dialogue. Like you and I, neither of us write naturalistic dialogue exactly. We're both heightened in different ways usually. You're heightened sometimes in more of a pulp or stage way, and I'm heightened in more of a Aaron Sorkin, Amy Sherman, Paula Dino way. And then we have to kind of find a way to finesse it.
Yeah.
My big thing is Emily. I feel bad for her.
Okay.
I feel like it's a horrible life for Emily. She loves David. I love my wife so much. And I'm sure if it was just me, it's a very romantic notion being it's just us in the world. Obviously, we have our child. But she lives in she lives on a ground of a horrible massacre.
Yeah.
And she's alive only because she doesn't really bug this guy. She's never bothered him. They just get along really well.
They have a good connection. I mean, what I thought was interesting about Emily is just sort of the question of once I thought why might he be different, and have this different take on stuff. I was like, well, maybe he's in love, maybe there's someone who, has shown him how to love and be honest and good.
Right.
But I think that raises with someone like him a very necessary question of, well, how much is it real?
Yeah, how do you confirm consent in a relationship like this?
Does Emily actually genuinely love him for him? Because maybe as a child she sees the sweetness in him, she sees the good in him and that he wants to be better and genuinely loves him. And also, Right, there's no escaping anyway. Like,
Right.
even if the other people were alive,
Well,
that elevator shaft is gone. You
we
know,
have
like,
only her word for it,
yes.
but like the
Is it her
situation
word?
makes it where you can't really know. And it's spooky,
And
right?
that's why Dracula calls it out.
Yeah.
And she fights back, but there is always going to be the question of, how real is it? You know?
Yeah, and
I think
Dracula's had to, you pointed out, like, she points that you're jealous because you used to have power like this. It's like, yeah, well, Dracula used to have thralls, right? And it's the kind of thing where, like, he gets what he wants from everybody all the time, and that makes people kind of worthless to him.
Yeah.
But it also probably is very isolating. It's I think maybe something that was cool about Victoire and their relationship is I imagine that she's powerful enough magically that maybe she resisted the thrall or whatever, and they could be honest with each other. Certainly, she was honest with him on many.
Yeah.
She talked to him like nobody else does. Anyway, it's an interesting sort of wrinkle that I kind of wish we had more room in the script to explore.
Sure, yeah.
But the script is, again, 169 pages. So.
Yes. And I think it was just, hinting at the darkness of this power and letting it be scary and unknowable, because I think that's kind of the Village of the Damned's whole deal,
Sure.
is
And
like this sort of otherworldliness that, like, even if he's going to join our heroes, that there's always going to be like, he's maybe too powerful to be safe around, you know?
And I like the way that, like, the detail about not being able to look at the monolith and the way that it doesn't look as if it actually belongs in the movie. That's a detail imported directly from Avery's script, which is just really cool. The idea that how do you show something that's truly alien? You literally can't perceive it.
Yeah, and I thought that was a cool thing to bring to our final movie, because it's such a powerful thing visually.
And you want to bring some new visual stuff, right?
Yeah, like having them walk into town and have there be this like mixed media image that they can't look at and looks weird to the viewer. Like, I thought that was a cool new setting for our Dark Legion to be in.
All right, I think that's all I got for you on this. Yeah. Other than it's another Dalton DeShane character who's scared of himself. I have no idea. What's all this about? We've brought on our next guest is Dalton's therapist.
Yes. She would have a great time.
Great episode. Let's have her on.
All right, let's jump in.
Yeah.
Cut to a few minutes later. Nick and Drac stand quote-unquote outside, waiting for David while he talks to his wife. Nick bites his lip nervously.
Our lives are in his hands. There's no getting back to the surface at this point. Either our plan succeeds or we die down here.
Yeah, I know.
If he refuses, we'll need to cover his mouth before he gets the chance to react. You take care of the wife, but keep her alive. We'll need her screams to get him to comply.
Jesus Christ, Drac. You know I'm not doing all that. Dracula scowls.
So what is the backup plan of a hero?
To not need one. The front door opens. David emerges. Come on. He walks past them toward town. Does this mean you're in?
If what you say is true, I don't have much of a choice.
He turns to them.
But if you go back on your word, if you try to use me as your personal weapon...
He looks at Dracula specifically.
Just don't be surprised when that weapon turns on you.
They follow David at a distance. See? No backup plan needed.
As long as your ex answers your call.
Not my ex. And she'll answer. Nick shouts up to David. Hey, you know we can do this next part anywhere, right?
I know.
He stops.
But I figured if the plan was to pray...
Pull out to reveal him standing in front of a modest stone church, a single dark stained glass window over the door.
We'd have our best luck here.
The wooden door creaks open, and the three step into the empty church, Dracula hesitating for just a moment before passing over the threshold. It's a one-room chapel, silent as a tomb and littered with cobwebs in every dark corner. Nick leads the trio down the aisle between pews, stopping at the kneeler in front of the altar. David and Dracula stand back, waiting for him. He kneels, inexperienced and uncomfortable, clasps his hands together, and bows his head. Evelyn. It's been a long time. How are you doing? Dracula rolls his eyes. Nick shakes his head. Stupid. He's doing this wrong. Look, I need your help. And I don't know exactly how this works, and I know you're probably not supposed to do this at all, but I swear I wouldn't be asking if it wasn't literally the most important thing in the world. So please, can we talk? Nothing. The church is as dead as everything else. David leans over to Dracula.
My understanding is that this is not how prayer usually works.
Mr. Morton thinks he's the exception to every rule, the center of the universe.
Then, brilliant sunlight shines through the stained glass window, bathing them in color, a vibrant illustration of angels descending to earth, trumpets blowing.
It's infuriating how often the universe agrees.
Nick stands and backs away. Evelyn O'Connell, played in the film by Rachel Weisz and in this reading by Sarah Norcross, descends through the ceiling, dressed in a brilliant white dress, feathered wings flapping gently on either side of her.
Nick! Oh God, it's so good to see you.
Same. You look, he stammers, tongue-tied by her beauty.
Oh, it's on the tip of your tongue, just say it.
Did it hurt? When you fell from heaven. Evelyn rolls her eyes and laughs, a bit of her old, girlish self peeking through. Thank you for coming.
I could hear the passion in your soul. I want to help.
Then she sees the men behind him.
What the hell is Count Dracula doing here?
Believe it or not, he's helping. We're the only ones left, Evie.
Yes. I felt the others go. One by one.
I can fix it, Evie. He gestures to Dracula. We can fix it. But I need your help. And you're really not going to like it.
If it's something I'm able to do, Nick, you know I'll do it.
We need to get into hell.
Well, you don't need me for that. There's about 1,000 ways to do that right now, and that's beside the obvious.
She swipes her finger across her neck to illustrate. Too unpredictable. We'll just end up trapped in personal hells that could take an eternity to break out of. We can't use the sinkholes for the same reason. They're swarmed with demons, and Drac and I are mortal now. We'd never survive. We need a back door.
Nick.
The lagoon is gone. No way to find or access it since Hunter and the creature died.
Nick, you know I can't do this.
Heaven is the only other connection to hell. There must be a direct pathway, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to invade after Cairo.
And that's exactly why I can't do this. We were decimated, Nick. I'm down to a mere handful of angels, and in case you haven't noticed, the war isn't over yet.
That's why we're going to end it.
We can't take another assault, Nick. And besides that, allowing living mortals into heaven is strictly forbidden.
Dracula speaks up.
By who? I thought you were in charge. Is St. Peter going to bar the gates?
You don't want to know what happened to the last person who faced St. Peter. But no, I'll keep you out myself.
She turns back to Nick.
I'm sorry, Nick. You're asking me to sentence the rest of my kind to death. I would do anything for you, except that.
Nick's head falls. I understand. I really do. But this is too important, Evie. I'm sorry.
For what?
This is David. David steps forward. He's my plan B. Evelyn looks confused, about to ask a question, but she's stopped as David simply utters,
Let us in.
Instantly, the church melts away. The trio now stand face to face with the real Evelyn, her eyes dazed from David's psychic control. They're in a stone courtyard near the top of a mountain. The scenery is beautiful, the sky is clear blue, and from their elevation you can see green mountains stretching into the sky for miles all around them. The air is buoyed by the gentle chirping of distant cicadas. And yet, the grass in the courtyard is yellowed, unkempt, weeded. The fountains no longer run. The courtyard is next to a small temple of Eastern design, its supports charred, its roof half collapsed. Evelyn comes back to herself, overcome with rage.
How dare you?
Evelyn, I'm sorry. Let me explain.
I'm sending you back immediately.
No, you're not.
David's words make themselves truth. She can't do it. She gives Nick a look of pure hatred and betrayal.
Fine. You're on your own.
She turns and storms into the temple. Nick signals to the others to wait and follows after her. The inside of the temple is dark, punctuated by shafts of sunlight coming in from the patchy roof. Evelyn, please. She whips around on him.
What happened to you, Nick? Working with Dracula? Using a psychic to force me into something against my will?
What happened? I lost everyone, Evie. I lost you, Jack, Jenny, the entire goddamn Legion. Everyone I've ever loved has been taken from me by Aminet and her death gods, and if that wasn't bad enough, for the past year she's been taking the rest of humanity down with them. And every one of those deaths, every single lost soul is my fault. But I know how to fix it. So I'm sorry to resort to extreme measures, but you have to believe me that it's the only way to save everyone. Evelyn shakes her head in complete disbelief.
You are so goddamn selfish.
Selfish? Putting my soul on the line to save 6 billion people is selfish.
Yes, Nick. Putting the weight of the world on your shoulders and yours alone is selfish. Everything always comes back to you. The Legion dying is your fault. Ominous opening the door is your fault, and as a result, everyone has to stand aside for the great guilty Nick Morton to come in and fix everything, as if nobody else is trying, as if nobody else deserves to help. And for the record, Nick, my death wasn't your fault, but me losing my trust in you, that is.
You said it yourself. You're working with a skeleton crew. I'm sorry, Evelyn, but heaven lost the war. Earth lost the war. There's only one route left to take.
Okay, so tell me, Nick. Tell me how your grand plan is somehow worth all of this.
Aminet's plan isn't finished yet, right? Yes, they've taken over the world, but that's not their ultimate goal.
Yes, they're just sopping up the last bits of suffering before hitting the reset button.
Yes, exactly. The reset button. They plan on rebooting the Earth from scratch, creating a new history of humanity to torture for eternity.
You're not saying what I think you're saying.
We hit the reset button first. Reboot the Earth not in the Death God's image, but in ours.
And sacrifice all of humanity in the process?
No, giving humanity the start we deserve.
And erasing the history of everyone who ever lived. My God, you're not just talking about sacrificing 6 billion souls. You're talking about every soul.
Those souls are in hell, Evelyn. I'm saving them from torture.
You're just steering us off the cliff with your own hand on the wheel. It's not a solution.
I can't believe this. I thought you were the wise angel who believed in the greater good. Weren't you ready to sacrifice all of Cairo for your own insane plan not too long ago?
I've changed, Nick. I realized you were right. Every life, every soul matters.
It's far too late for that, Evie.
It's never too late. Nothing gets better when you give up the fight.
Silence. They're at an impasse. We need that passage to hell, Evie.
And if I say no, you're going to use your alien brute to force me?
Please don't make me make that choice.
Sorry, Nick. If you insist on bearing the weight of the universe, then you'll have to bear it all.
Nick sighs, and then calls for David. David and Dracula step into the temple. We need the door open.
Wait, not here.
But it's too late. David is already saying the words.
Open heaven's gate. Now.
Evelyn's eyes glaze over. Nothing seems to happen. Then she comes back to herself.
Ugh, you idiots.
The shafts of sunlight coming through the roof turn blood red. The sound of trumpets fills the air, an urgent staccato rhythm. The four of them run outside and look into the crimson sky. In the distance, flying toward them, a flock of white wings.
What is this?
The Molochs know you're here now.
Who?
The angels. They were alerted when the gate opened, and now they'll be looking for anything that doesn't belong. That includes you.
Call them off, Evie.
I can't, Nick. I told you, you're not allowed to be here.
Well, where's the gate? Evelyn shakes her head and points. In the distance, at the very edge of the horizon line, a mountain peak is beginning to crack open, magma oozing out of its seams. It is very, very far away. Well, hell. Cut to a dense jungle, its sky also red, but a different shade, so dark it's almost black. The trees shimmer in the extreme heat. There's a wooden platform stretched between the branches, a dozen ladders leading up to it on all sides. On the platform, the enormous cycloptic god of death Owuo sits on a throne of bones. He is surrounded by kneeling humans, fanning him with palm fronds. None of them are whole. Parts of them have been scraped down to the bone, skulls, ribs, femurs variously exposed. One man, in front, holds his frond with an arm that's just bone. Owuo holds the flesh in his hands, a loose sleeve of arm flesh that he feeds into his mouth like a spaghetti noodle. A tangled knot of sentient arms clambers over one of the ladders onto the platform. Two of its fingers have gnarled teeth growing out of them, and it manipulates these fingers like a mouth.
Awuo, Papa! Heaven's Gate has opened once again!
Owuo slurps down the rest of the arm, loose fingertips flapping on his lips as they get sucked in.
Finally. Send a horde. It's time we eliminated the remaining heretics up there.
Will you be joining them, Lord?
Owuo looks at the demon darkly.
If you can't clean up a dozen Molochs without me playing nanny.
He reaches out to one of his human servants and digs his claws into the flesh around their shoulder. The man screams.
Then you will answer to Owuo.
With a quick swipe, Owuo cleanly strips flesh and muscle from the bone. The demon made of arms gets the message and scrambles back down the ladder. Back to heaven. Nick, Drac, and David are climbing into a wooden cart drawn by 2 horses. Nick takes the reins, Dracula sitting shotgun, David lying in the cart behind them. Evelyn sees them off.
This path will take you straight there, but hurry. The Molochs won't be the only ones who know the gate has opened.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, Evie. I'm just trying to fix my mistakes.
I just wish you'd finally learn that you're not as alone as you think you are.
Enough of this. We are hellbound.
Nick whips the reins, and the cart takes off down the rough mountain path. Behind them, the cloud of angels grows nearer. David watches them warily, then squints as he sees smaller points of light flying through the air.
Arrows!
Nick and Drac look over their shoulders as a hail of flaming arrows falls around them, one of them landing on the seat directly between Nick and Dracula. David scrambles to put out the fires before the wood catches. From up in the temple courtyard, Evelyn watches all this, biting her lip.
Oh, God damn it.
She spreads her brilliant white wings. A flaming sword erupts from her fist. She flies after the cart. Back in the cart, Nick speeds down the rocky mountainside, zigzagging to avoid another volley of arrows. Dracula turns to see that the angels are much, much closer now. Among them are the Molochs, angels like Evie, humans with wings and crossbows. Similar to them are the Seraphs, humanoids covered all over in wings, who attack with their piercing choir of voices. The Ophanim are spinning wheels of fire and eyes, while the Cherubim have 4 faces and 4 wings on the body of a lion. The cart rolls underneath some tree cover, momentarily blocking them from the angels' attacks.
We need weapons.
Dracula turns to David.
Is there anything back there with you?
David digs around in the back of the cart and comes up with a tiny bow with wooden arrows shaped like hearts and painted pink. A Cupid's bow. Dracula groans but takes it, pointing one of the small arrows up at a Moloch. He waits for a gap in the tree cover, fires, and the arrow lodges itself in the Moloch's wing, and has no effect. It doesn't even notice. Dracula growls and reaches across to plunge his hand into Nick's pant pockets. Hey, hey! Dracula pulls a pack of matches out and strikes one against one long fingernail. He uses it to light the arrow on fire. He takes aim again, waiting for the trees to clear. And when they do, his eyes widen. The Ophanim are spinning their fiery wheels and eyes faster and faster, turning into a growing sphere of flame, seemingly charging up.
We need bigger weapons.
David and Nick look up to see the same thing, and the tree cover is about to end. They brace themselves, ready to be burnt to a crisp, but just as they rocket past the trees, Evelyn swoops above them, positioning herself between them and the angels. One of the Molochs booms, "Evelyn, move aside! Heaven is under attack!" Nick yells to Evie, "Can't you talk to them?"
It won't do any good. Look, just keep going straight no matter what happens. Got it?
Evie banks, clearing the line of sight between the Ophanim and the cart. The Ophanim charge their flames, ready to shoot, but just before they do, Evelyn raises her sword. Suddenly, the world changes. The mountains disappear, as does the cart, replaced with a 1929 Humber convertible car. They're in a lush green rainforest driving through the middle of a shallow river, rainbows overhead, beautiful waterfalls all around them, including directly in front of them, like just a few feet in front of them. The angels are still overhead, and the Ophanim let loose an incredible cannon of flame, just as Nick, Dracula, and David, all screaming, crash through the waterfall and into a cave hidden behind it. The torrent of water stops the flame in its tracks. Nick drives blind through the cave, bats shrieking and fluttering above them. The car finally emerges onto a dirt path through the jungle. A brief moment of safety, and then the angels appear overhead again. Dracula turns and takes aim, firing the flaming Cupid arrow. It hits another Moloch's wing, and the flame catches on its feathers. The Moloch flaps the one wing to try to extinguish it and starts to fall from the sky, swooping low toward the car. Dracula leaps up out of the front seat, grabbing onto the Moloch's crossbow. The weight sends them both crashing onto the trunk of the car, wrestling for control. Dracula yanks the crossbow out of the angel's hand and kicks him off the back of the car, sending him rolling in the dirt. David helps Dracula climb back into the car to the front seat. The angel recovers and takes back to the sky. Dracula wastes no time. He points the crossbow with its flaming arrows back to the angels. Hey, whoa, what are you doing?
What do you think I'm doing?
You can't kill them, they're on our side.
They're trying to kill us, you pathetic moron.
Just clip them, okay?
I will do no such thing.
He has one of the heads of the cherubim in his sights. Just as he pulls the trigger, Nick swerves the car and his shot goes wild.
Damn it, Morton, I'm trying to keep us alive.
The car veers back onto the path and Dracula takes aim again. David, no killing, right? Just before Drac fires, David says,
"Stop."
Dracula roars with frustration, unable to pull the trigger. He swings the crossbow around to point right in David's face. David cocks an eyebrow, daring him to try it. Suddenly, The angels disperse, flanking out on all sides and out of sight. The jungle around them thins, the path leading them onto a grassy plain waving in the wind. What? Why'd they stop? David points in front of them.
Look!
Evelyn is flying toward them, low to the ground, waving her arms.
Stop! Turn around!
Nick slams on the brakes, skidding through the grass. Behind Evelyn, a horde of horrifying demons, hundreds deep, comes charging through the grass. Oh shit! Nick slams the car in reverse, speeding backward away from the army. Evelyn catches up and keeps pace, flying in front of them.
When I say so, you go forward again, and don't stop until you hit hell. Got it?
You mind telling us what the plan is?
Just follow my sword. Ready?
The horde is getting closer, horrible mutants thirsty for flesh.
Now!
Nick slams the car forward again, and just as he does, the army of angels comes roaring out of the jungle behind them, flying forward and colliding with the demon army. Evelyn leads the way with her flaming sword, slicing her way through the horde and clearing a path for the car. They drive straight into the fray, surrounded on all sides by battling angels and demons. Nick shouts to Dracula, "Now those guys you can kill!" Dracula does so, firing the crossbow at demons on all sides. But there's too many. Evelyn gets drawn into a fight, distracting her from the path. A dozen demons are heading for the car. Evelyn catches sight and raises her sword. In an instant, the battlefield changes again. The jungle is gone, replaced with flat rock, surrounded on all sides by steaming hot springs, which swallow some of the demons, burning their flesh. There's a stone mound with a hole in it between the car and the oncoming demons. Nick realizes what it is at the last second. The demons don't. They run over the hole just as the geyser erupts, blasting them into the air with burning hot steam. Nick swerves around it. Thus begins a manic battle sequence. While the angels and demons fight all around them, Evelyn protects our heroes by rapidly changing the layout of heaven, each setting more beautiful than the last, all captured in one long take. They're skating on a sled through an ice cavern inside of a glacier, demons sliding into crevices. Then, driving over a white sand beach, a strip of land surrounded on both sides by clear water, demons struggling to swim. Then, crossing a grassy savanna at sunset in a jeep. A modern city with skyscrapers lit up in neon. A mountain lake. A cliffside highway overlooking the ocean. Desert ruins. All of it seen at high speed, Nick gripping the wheel, trusting that the road will stay clear. Chaotic carnage on all sides. Then, while speeding through a hillside village, they see it. A cave ahead of them, glowing red. Nick yells out to Evelyn, "Evie, can we get some privacy?" She nods.
Good luck!
You too. The car rockets into the cave, and as soon as it does, it transforms. The car disappears, and the three men spill onto the floor of a silent library. They climb to their feet. In the center of the room, among the impossibly high shelves, a single book sits open on a podium, its edges flaming. They approach it slowly. From above, they can see that there are no pages. It is a hole opening into an impossible red pit, just wide enough for a person to drop through. "I guess this is our back door." He turns to David. "You stay here. Evelyn will get you safely back to Emily."
Assuming she survives.
She will.
Although, I guess if you succeed, it won't matter anyway, right?
Nick nods. "Thanks again for your help. We couldn't have done it without you."
Here's a command for you. Fix this.
Nick smiles. "Well, I guess I have to now." He turns to stand with Dracula over the book. "This is it. You ready to go back to hell?"
I survived it once. I shall again.
"After you."
No, please. I think you should go first.
Nick nods, takes a deep breath.
But not through the door.
"What? What do you mean?" Dracula swiftly brings the crossbow to Nick's chest and pulls the trigger. The arrow punches through his heart and out his back.
No!
I'm afraid you'll be going the old-fashioned way.
He lets Nick's body fall to the ground. From Nick's POV, we see Dracula standing over him.
Meanwhile, I have a meeting with the demon Pazuzu. Goodbye, Mr. Morton. For good.
Dracula grips the sides of the book as Nick's vision fades to black. After a prolonged moment of silence, Nick gasps awake. He's somewhere very dark. He fumbles around and finds he's wearing a headlamp, which he flicks on. The light doesn't get very far. He's standing, wedged between two rock walls, so close together that he can't take a full breath. He swings his head around to the sides, but this crevice leads nowhere. His headlamp lands on solid rock on all sides. He slaps his hands on the rock wall and tries to yell with half a lungful of air. Help! Help! But no one can hear him. The camera zooms away from this, through the solid rock entombing Nick, until finally emerging out of his personal hell and into hell proper. We travel through the barren, fiery landscape until blackness overtakes the camera. Embers float across a black screen, and we pan up. Someone with long black hair lies with her head on a fine wooden desk. We pull back, and a well-dressed aide rushes to her side.
Congresswoman? Congresswoman, are you all right?
The aide helps the long-haired woman sit back in her chair. Her face is still obscured.
Yeah, I'm fine. I must have dozed off.
The congresswoman wipes a spot of drool off her chin, then pulls her hair back and reveals the face of Gwen Conliffe, played in the film by Amber Midthunder and voiced here by Rachel Millman.
I had the most fucked up dream.
End of Act 1.
And that's how we reveal that it was all a dream.
It was all
the
a
whole
dream,
time.
just like Lost.
Just like, yes.
No.
Yes, that's it's not true in either case.
So yeah, the other big thread, besides the Midwich stuff that I wanted to follow up on, was Heaven.
Yes,
and
because
the state of it after the post-credits of Heaven's Gate.
Yes.
Because we have followed up on Angels previously.
Yes, but we haven't been back up. We established that Heaven had been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I followed up a little bit in Mystery Men with a post-credit sequence. We had Sahakwiel. We demonstrated that they're still sort of like, they're still fighting, but now it's a guerrilla war, and they're willing to take, still like make those hard choices that we generally don't approve of. But yeah, in terms of Heaven itself, we haven't really seen it except for that one little glimpse in Heaven's Gate. And you came up with a really cool visual interpretation of it that's flexible and conducive to like fun chase sequences.
It wasn't originally going to be that way. I mean, I wanted to go to Heaven because, again, when I was thinking about this movie, I was like, what are the big, like, show-stopping physical set pieces we can see? And one was Midwich, this recreated village, and the spire and everything we talked about. But the other was like, Heaven. We should go. Our Dark Legion has never been to Heaven. So we should get them up there because that's like, it's a promise of the premise thing. I feel like if we establish Heaven and then no one goes there.
They should go there. They should do something.
Something should happen there.
And it makes sense that it's psychoreactive, right? Although it follows Evelyn's commands. And of course, now we get like full on angel Evelyn. Like we don't see her like in battle here.
Yeah.
But she's flying around. She's got a flaming sword.
Yeah. She's controlling Heaven. That was a late breaking idea. Like, believe it or not, I did not actually have like any action in Heaven. It was all just, it was going to be like that argument, and then they were going to go to hell. And I was rewatching Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning to prepare for the final reckoning.
So the Rome chase, I guess.
I love the Rome chase. I think it's one of the best. I think it's the best action sequence. I don't know about that, but if
you were going to say the best in the Macquarie ones or in the series, I was going to yell at you because there's so much in Fallout that's so good.
I think the Reckoning films have Macquarie's best action sequences.
Okay.
Because all of them tell a story in the action that in itself has an Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And I think that's how an action sequence should be built.
I agree.
And so I was thinking about like, there's got to be a chase scene. We got to put a chase scene in there. And how do I tell a story with it? And so that's where all the stuff with like Dracula finding the Cupid's bow and then trying to get the crossbow and then trying to kill the wrong people, but then the demons appear, and then building to this Act 3 where Evelyn's trying to keep them safe by just changing the geography every second, because that's something you can do in Heaven you can't do anywhere else.
Right, and that's a fun way also you don't have to defang our demon bad guys either, or the angels. In that there's not a winnable fight. Yeah. That's another reason why chase scenes are so popular in Acts 1 and 2 of action movies, is it allows you to do something exciting that does not require a clean victory for your heroes over the villains. I think that's really a lot of fun. I can see it really well in my head. It made for a fun thing to play with, doing like motion text in the video version of the trailer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
not time travel.
It's not time travel.
It's Heaven shenanigans.
It's Heaven shenanigans, which I don't think anybody had as what that was. But of course, we didn't give you enough information about it. We didn't even put Evelyn in the trailer.
No, we did not. Did anyone guess the David thing, by the way?
Somebody said that David would be an alien like Indrid Cold. And that David
Okay.
is a half alien associated with Interpol.
Yeah, it's a different
So-
species, but no one guessed that it was a village of the damned.
No, nobody
person.
nobody specifically tied it in. There were no specific guesses about Village of the Damned.
Nice. I like that. I love when we surprise you, both
Yeah.
with Heaven and with Dave. As when I was planning this, I wanted to do things that would really surprise our audience and hopefully give them something that they didn't know they wanted. And I see that as a victory, that no one predicted it was a Heaven chase scene and that no one predicted that the Midwich kids would come back.
Yeah, and so what you've done here is your Act 1, your big goal was kill Nick.
Yes. I wanted to, the thing I want to do in Act 1 is fulfill the promise of the premise set up by the end of Death's Door, which is it's just Nick and Drac here to save the world, and they have no powers. I figured we couldn't throw that out. Like, if Dracula killed Nick right at the beginning, I feel like that's kind of a cop-out. Like, I think part of the fun is, what are these two people without powers going to do at the end of the world to help? And we get to see they go through hell. They really do some gnarly shit here, but they have a plan. And it is a plan that Dracula, of course, throws away at the last second.
Of course, because he's had his plan
powers back.
for ages now.
Yeah.
Since we were doing Dracula in Hell, pretty like halfway through Dracula in Hell.
Yeah.
All the way back in Phase 3.
Why did he keep Nick alive this long? Because Nick has the in to heaven that he doesn't have. I think they've known for a while that is their back door, and Nick is the one with the connections. Dracula ain't getting into heaven by himself.
Nope.
Yeah.
And so now we have that done, and we've given you a little tease at what we're doing in my Act 2, which I don't imagine I'm giving away the game here. When you made me a face like I shouldn't give away the game. Let me let you all wonder about what that means.
Don't give away the game.
Yeah, okay. You know,
they only have to wait 4 days.
4 days on Thursday. You can get the next part of the game we're not giving away, but I will say it was not all a dream. It was not all a dream. We would never do that to you.
We did just see Gwen Conliffe.
Yes.
Congresswoman Gwen Conliffe.
Congresswoman Gwen Conliffe, asleep at her desk.
And that's your little tease
and she's
for
just
Act
had
2.
the most fucked up dream, and that's it. And so I know this is a little bit on the short side for us, especially.
That's good.
But that's okay, because we were always saying that the episodes run too long. Okay, you're saying that. But,
I think
we also, it's Act 1. Act 2 is always supposed to be like twice as long as Act 1 or Act 2.
This is going to be
Or
the
Act
shortest
3, so.
part, which is good for us because we can edit it more quickly.
Yes, we are recording this 8 days before it airs.
So if you're feeling unsatisfied, don't forget, this is part 1 of 3.
Yes, this is basically, we've just teed up the movie for you with some action.
Well, we've just reached our inciting incident, which is the death of Nick Morton again. I guess he didn't really die before, but we've damned him to some pretty gnarly places in the past.
Yes, indeed, we have.
But now he's dead for the first time, really. And where are we going to go from there? What's maybe Congresswoman Gwen Conliffe will pass a law that says he must come back to life.
Yeah.
And everything will be fine. But is there anything else we should cover before we bounce? Maybe get a slice of pizza and move on to Act 2.
Well, I want to make sure we thank all our patrons.
Oh, of course, we must do that because they made this film
They made this all possible.
Our executive producers and such.
Yes. So we just want to give a big shout out to all of the patrons who are, first of all, thank you to everybody who supports us at any level. We always really appreciate all the support you guys give us, not just the money, which is helpful because we still haven't taken any home, but it's helping us to build what we do. So we want to give a special thanks to our executive producers. These are patrons who have subscribed at the $15 a month level and get themselves a special shout out on every episode we record while they're there. This is Brent Dreyer, Brian Egan, Mar Bendlar, Matt Thackeray, Soonmot, and Mike Lee Whiplash. And a big thanks to our studio executives. These are folks who have generously signed up for $25 a month subscriptions. They not only get the shout out, but they get to pick one of the movies that we do an impromptu pitch for on our bonus podcast, Are You Afraid of Dylan and Dalton? These studio executives are Alyssa, Bill French, Beerus, Joe Valiant, Jonathan Morgantini, Moose, The Real Nick Morton, Rich Mays, and Tom Webster. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in joining this merry band, you can go to patreon.com/Dylan and Dalton. You can start a 7-day free trial, join the Discord of the most lovely creative people who are always getting together and reading and workshopping each other's scripts.
Come on, don't you want to go talk about this part 1 with other fans?
You can speculate with people about what's going to happen next for the next week. That 7-day trial is going to take you all the way to the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So assuming nothing goes wrong, which it's always spooky to say this like that, but we're pretty big sticklers for our schedule, as the longtime listeners know.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for you all right now. Enjoy. 4 days in suspense while we wait to get to Act 2, which is my act, predominantly. And I'm very excited to read it to you and lose my voice. So
I hope you're ready to do some talking, big guy.
absolutely. I hate talking. Everyone knows I hate talking.
We will see you in a few days. And until then,
Stay afraid of the dark universe.